As we mentioned in the previous video, we use components to organize really large applications. Components let us group variables and functions together into logical sections. At one glance, we can tell which functions and variables are related to each other. When components are used properly, there's no such thing as a global variable that might change our code in surprising ways. And there's no such thing as a random CF_include file off to the side that sets a variable that we'll need 10 templates later in the application. We've all seen legacy CFML applications like that. They're not much fun to work on. By taking advantage of CF components, you can get rid of these annoyances in the app and start to build more reusable self-documenting code. This is true even without needing to use the full-blown frameworks like ColdBox. CFCs by themselves offer a ton of benefits in software development over legacy procedural style development. And once you get comfortable with components by themselves, you'll get even more advantages from them when you do start to use something like ColdBox, TestBox, and the other Ortus products. Components also work the same way as classes in other OO languages. So all the concepts that we'll learn about in this video series, the techniques we use, can be applied not just in your components, but those skills will also translate into similar things when dealing with classes in languages like Java, C++, and C#. There really is no downside to learning components and object-oriented programming. It is the way most modern web development is done nowadays. Yes, there are some advanced techniques with components, things like interfaces, composition. Those sorts of things can seem really complicated at first. A good thing about components and OOP is you don't have to use those features if you don't need to. If you're not at a place where you understand or would benefit from inheritance, fine, don't use it yet. We'll build a variety of components in this video series, and we'll show you how many of the features you can take advantage of work, but there's definitely no rule that says you must use all of these techniques in your code. Like anything else in programming, you pick the right tool for the job. Sometimes it's a fancier component that uses interfaces and composition and a DI library, and other times a simple CFC with 3 functions will do just fine. Whether you build big or small components, they really do make developing larger applications much easier to manage. You can focus on just the code you need to worry about and ignore other variables and functions. Anything you need gets passed into the section of code you're working on, like you can see here with our employee or musician or actor CFCs. And anything you don't need is completely ignored. It's a separate piece of code in a separate portion of your application. If you've never done object-oriented programming before, some of the concepts we'll learn in this video series will seem strange, maybe even a bit esoteric to use at first. I promise they all do pose some benefits in your application development. A few things take a bit more typing than you may be used to. While I've heard developers use this as an excuse to shy away from OOP, really, it's kind of an invalid excuse for 2 big reasons. One, any extra typing is a one-time pain point for one developer, but then everyone benefits from the better quality code. And really, how long does it take to do a little bit of extra typing anyway? A few minutes here and there, it's not really a big deal. Second, for any slow typers watching this video series, you'll notice that I'm using VS Code, a modern code editor. Like all other modern code editors, VS Code has a bunch of hotkeys, plugins, snippets, and other features I can take advantage of that make writing lines of code really efficient. I'm certain you're using a code editor that has similar features, and I'd encourage you to take a few minutes and read up on what your IDE can do. I promise writing the extra lines of code really is pretty easy and not that much of a time constraint. You'll get lots of experience writing components of various sizes using all kinds of OO features throughout this video series.